society, and he does a very good job at it. And I think it's God's will. This person will end up paying because he's a Jew. It doesn't matter what happens as far as his claiming to become a Russian Orthodox, a kind of like a priest in his garb and everything. He was born to Jewish parents. He's still a Jew. He's damaged psychologically, but God has chosen him to create more hatred for the Jews, to be a dispenser of this kind of information, to basically compel the Gentiles to cut ties with the Jews, or distance themselves from the Jews, or to not trust the Jews, or to not have a liking of there would be no less friendships, less intermingling, less assimilation, less intermarriage. This is the time prior to the revelation of Mashiach. So God is doing what he must. He's employing a lot of pressure and power by way of trying to persuade Jews that are on the sitting on the fence. And like I told you before, I'm hearing a lot more English here in Israel everywhere I go, a lot more American, Canadian, European Jews, all different types. A lot of the Ukrainian Jews and Russian Jews are coming here because they know that there's nothing left for them over there. But it's a good sign. It's just that I'll tell you honestly, I'm not conflicted. It's what my rabbi said many times over the years is something I've known and felt. And I was hesitant to really indulge in talking about this because it can come off sounding as if I'm being anti-Semitic. I'm not a self-hating Jew. I'm not a Nazi-like Jew or a Jew that supports Nazism or neo-Nazism or racism or hatred towards Jews or anti-Semitism towards Jews. I'll just call a spade a spade. I'm being honest. If this came from my rabbi, and my rabbi, I believe, is the Mashiach, and many others do as well, and he has this critical opinion of the Jews living in the diaspora, saying that they've done a lot of damage, they've caused a lot of harm, they've gone against God's will, they've gone off the beaten path or off the straight path of faith in God into all sorts of wacky, degenerate kind of streams and deviations, basically deviance. The Jews in America's entertainment industry, or whether it's in finance and banking, or wherever you find them, there are a lot of really messed up, deviant Jews that are atheists, that are anti-God, that are anti-religion, and they have done a lot of damage because, like it or not, the Jews are very influential. I know it because I know what my capabilities are. I know that I have the power to influence. I know that I have the ability to convey a message in an influential way and to change people's, perspectives or opinions based on my ability to persuade and be influential. That's what we are like. We have this ability of speech and communication and influence. It can be used for good things. It could be used for positive things. It could be used in what we say in Hebrew is Kiddush Hashem, to bless His holy name, to sort of like sanctify His name and do things for God's purposes. Or we can do things to really mess things up and do our own will for our own sake in order to get our way, and in order to dominate, and in order to control things, or in order to serve the evil satanic forces that have been are the overlords, where the Jews in Europe especially have been the servants or the ministers. These are the terms of what we talked about in Genesis, Esav and Jacob. You will be under your brother's yoke if you do not stay on the straight path of faith in God and obeying the laws and commandments. You will fall under the control and the power and the yoke of your older brother Esav. And if you do, as a nation, all your seed, if they are obedient, then Esav will be under your yoke, and he will serve you. So now, over the past many centuries, it's been a case of the Jews being subservient and being servants of Esav of the Christian world, especially this and serving their evil sort of agendas and objectives, meaning the elites, the oligarchs, the monarchies, the power structure. That's what you find in America now. Is that a lot of
the anti-Semites would say that we have been subject to Jews, wouldn't they? Rather than
no. But they don't. They've begun to realize, if they're honest, that there are powers far greater and far more powerful than the Jews that do really pull the strings, and you employ the Jews as sort of like playthings or apparatchiks, or servants, functionaries, ministers. Have you heard of what's called the Kallergi Plan?
Something about the population reducing the population. Is that right?
No, the Kallergi Plan is something like along those lines. But the Kallergi Plan proposed that the royals and the monarchs of Europe should use the Jews as their frontmen. All right, I'll read it for you. Okay, here, it's actually in Wikipedia. Kallergi Plan. The Kallergi Plan, sometimes called the Coudenhove-Kalergi conspiracy, is a far-right anti-Semitic white genocide conspiracy theory, which claims that Austrian-Japanese politician Richard von Coudenhove-Kalergi concocted a plot to mix white Europeans with other races via immigration. It was promoted in aristocratic European social circles. The conspiracy theory is most often associated with European groups and parties, but it is also spread to Northern American politics. Origins. The conspiracy theory stems from a malicious misinterpretation section of Kalergi's book in German, Praktischer Idealismus, in which he predicted that a mixed race of the future would arise. The man of the future will be of mixed race. Today's races and classes will gradually disappear, owing to the vanishing of space-time and prejudice. The Eurasian Negroid race of the future, similar in its appearance to the ancient Egyptians, will replace the diversity of people with a diversity of individuals. Modern far-right individuals seek to draw relationships between contemporary European policymaking and this quote. Austrian neo-Nazi writer Gerd Honsk wrote about the subject in his book Kallergi Plan in 2005. The independent Italian newspaper L'Inchiesta investigated the conspiracy theory and described it as a hoax, which is comparable to the fabricated anti-Semitic document, The Protocols of the Elders of Zion. But it's out there, and it's been there out there in the public space for a long time. Some people think it's genuine. A lot probably think it's a hoax or another anti-Semitic, conspiracy theory. But the point being is that he claims that the royals and the ruling classes use the Jews as influencers, as their lackeys. And you find them in the media, especially. But if there's a tinge of truth and to that, then so be it. It's not, for me at this point. I'm not going to come to the defense of the Jews of the diaspora. Everything that's that's been done, and everything that's being done now is God's will, whether it's just or unjust, whether it's true or untrue. I'm not, going to sift through all that garbage and try to uncover or expose the truth for what it is, because at this point, even if Brother Nathaniel, if I'm observing him and monitoring and I'm seeing, that's very biased. That's not, some things he says are very hateful and biased and full of venom and vitriol, and it's really, it's malicious, and you can just sense that he's enjoying it. It's like he's relishing his ability to just spout off his hatred for the Jewish people. And I used to be upset. I used to get upset. I used to get really, my blood used to boil. But at this point, I'm very, very calm. I'm listening to him and I'm monitoring, and I'm not just him, but any of the other ones like E. Michael Jones or whatever. And he's spouting off, and Nick Fuentes, he's spouting off. And I'm like, go ahead, buddies. Go ahead. Just do your best. Just lambaste them. Just totally use your sledgehammer and go for it, Because at this point, I've lost patience with the Jews of the diaspora. They have tested God's will. And it's a battle of wills between God and the Jews of the diaspora. It's a real struggle. It's a struggle between the Mashiach, the Messiah, and the Jews living outside of Israel. It's a struggle, and it was decided. It was prophesied that it would be this way. And I'm taking the side of God. I'm taking the side of the Creator. I'm taking the side of Hashem. I'm not taking the side of the Jews of the diaspora, whether they're religious or secular or whatever stream they are in. I'm sorry, people. I'm not defending you. I'm not coming to your aid. You're not supposed to be there anymore. It is just that intense, serious, and real. You refuse to believe. You refuse to take this stuff seriously. A day will come when you will regret all of it, and you will be blaming yourselves, and you will take responsibility for having refused to listen, for having ignored all the warnings for not just years, now it's decades, and for having being willfully ignorant and arrogant about it. Pretending like we are not living in the time that we are living in. It is blatantly obvious to any person with any sanity and a sense of curiosity, whether they're Jewish or not, Jewish or Gentile, that we are living in very unique times that are very different from other times in history. The nations of the world and humanity possess the ability to utterly destroy all life on this planet. That was not the case during World War I or World War II. It is a different, dynamic now. It is a different scenario now. All right, and it
Are
is
there any
unique.
rabbis who say, stay exactly where you are, Jews?
Yes, of course there are. There are many, but God will sort it out. I'm not searching these people out. I'm not looking to chide them or critique them or be to insult them or to get into shouting matches with them or butt heads with them. It's not my place. I'm transmitting my rabbi's words. They all these people have access to my rabbi. They can easily talk to him, his secretary. He welcomes it. He told me this many times through his secretary. If you find people in America or Europe or Canada that have problems with this message, have them talk to me, have them call me. I'll connect them to the rabbi. They'll have a face-to-face meeting, whether Zoom or on telephone, conference call, or whatever. My rabbi is not shying away from speaking to these people because he wants, as the Mashiach, he wants to save them. He does not want to condemn them. But the day will come, the day of wrath, the day of judgment, when all of this will stop and they will not have the ability to repent, and they will have to live up to the horrible, stubborn, stiff-necked attitudes they've displayed, and to their lack of decision making, their lack of faith. They'll have to pay. It's just that severe. I mean, that's why it's being delayed. God is very merciful, but it won't be delayed very much longer. We could see that. It's like
might be an idea for your rabbi to be hosting live streams with Jews who ask him about.
No. He's been to the United States, and he's been to Europe, but he's been a lot to the United States, to Florida, Canada, New York, all the major, Los Angeles. He's been there, and he's spoken on live radio on Jewish radio channels, and he had translators speaking for him. He's well known. The Jewish community is familiar with him, the religious community, and even a large portion of the secular, non-religious community know him, and they know his name, and they know his reputation. Some are in tune to who he really is. Some are dismissive. Some are mocking, or some are, clownish sort of, mockers and scoffers. Everyone will get what is coming to them. So my rabbi, like people like me, I'm in the service of my rabbi's messages and his lectures. I'm trying to do my best. I did my best also with John and also with other people, and whoever I get a chance to speak to face, if they're open to it, if they're sort of like welcoming, or if they show me signs that they want to hear, that they're curious, I'll gladly pass along this information to them because it's my privilege to actually convey these messages. It actually works in my favor spiritually if I include them. If I what's called אני מזכה אותם. I lezakot means in English to sort of like, one second, let me find the proper a translation that will sound correct here in the religious sense. Okay, lezakot. Okay. I win them, I exculpate them, I exonerate them, I vindicate them. It's basically, if they are in on what's happening and they're Jewish and they start believing, and I kind of like help them clean their slate. I vindicate them, I exonerate them, and I include them. That's what my rabbi said. His secretary told me this years ago. He said, "You will do this for the benefit of many Jews, and it's an honor and a privilege, and it actually works in my favor. These are great mitzvot, great accomplishments and good deeds on my behalf. I'm not going to pat myself on the back. I mean, it's something that I was told that I would be doing." And God knows I need to exonerate myself of so many sins from my past. I'm not the most righteous Jew in the world. It's not. I'm not a thief. I'm not a dishonest person. I think I'm a very straightforward and honest person. I have a clean heart, and I'm straight in my speech and straight in my thinking. But let's just say, a lot of that Indian blood is, flowing through my veins, and the Indians are horny bastards. If you get my drift, so I've got that in my past. It's like I'm not the most chaste person. I let myself run wild. I did more than sowing wild oats. I did way more than that, and so that for that, I'll also have to pay, and hopefully I'm expunging myself. I'm vindicating myself because. The more I do this, the more I even the scales, because God hates spiritual pollution. And if you're overly permissive, with fornication, it creates spiritual pollution. All right.
Mhm.
And
Do you
so,
know any Americans who have come to Israel of what because they were impressed by your rabbi?
yes, many. And I've I'll put this here. Put this page on screen. I'll find it for you, and you'll see that I even did a lot of work through one of my rabbi's sponsors, a rich widow that actually opened a site. Her name will come to me. I forgot her name. But here, this is the site. It's Achdut V'Geula. And I gave my personal sort of testimony. All right.
Mhm.
And wait a minute. Let's see if I can find it. Achdut V'Geula. And it's from the time just before Trump got elected. Yeah, I found it. All right. Achdut V'Geula, Achdut V'Geula. Here it is. Here it is. I found it. Here it is. Okay. No, not Achdut Halev. Achdut V'Geula. Where are you? Here. Oh, here it is. Okay. Uh, oh, here she is. Here. I found her. Dalia Arazi. Dalia Arazi. That's her name. Okay. Let's see if I can find the page. Dalia Arazi. She's a rich widower.
Mhm.
And she supported my rabbi, and my rabbi got me in contact with her So I would do radio interviews and YouTube studio interviews. And this was many years ago. And it was also for the sake of exonerating the masses or vindicating the Jewish masses. Here it is. Let's see if this is it. Yeah, I found it. Okay, good, good. Okay, here, 1 second. Here. Here, I'm putting it in the private chat. Just put that up for people to see which site I'm talking about. And then I'll find my testimony that I put up there. It was many years ago. 1 second. English. I'll put my name here so I'll find it so easier. Dror Shmuel. Here it is. I found it. Have you put that up for people to see?
Yes, it's showing.
All right, terrific. So this is my profile here. You can put my profile up, and you can recommend that to people who want to see that I've been at this for a very long time. It's been even before I put this page up. This is from like 2016, I believe. So it's already been 6 years. And even from before then, I was active with Alex Jones a lot. I was interacting with Alex Jones a lot and influencing Alex Jones a lot. And, I was doing my part to try to influence and to try to awaken and to try to inform people of the fact that we are in the process of messianic revelation. And God is very merciful and is very sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Sort of, there's an expression is that he's it takes long to anger him. It's he's there's an expression. I would say there's another. No, there's an expression. From the Bible. There's an expression that God is long on his patience, or he's slow to anger. That's the expression I was looking for. Slow to anger. All right. So it has to build. God gives everyone as much time as possible to really fully understand things. And when they still are dismissive and stubborn, despite the fact that they're in full awareness and understanding of what God wants and what process he's putting us through, then when he's left with no other alternatives, then he lets the wrath run wild. Then it's the slow to anger turns to anger. All right, it's been slow to anger, and then all of a sudden, everything gets turned upside down. All right, then it's like the tables are turned, and then we go into the phase of judgment. We go into the phase of severity. We go into the phase of anger. We go into the phase of judgment. All right, so God is slow to anger. You could put go ahead and put my page up there. Show people.
Who is it?
That's me in Thailand. That's me on the when I was far thinner. I was in better shape. That's Kofi Fee on the ferry on the way to Kofi Fee. And it was a good time. There were a bunch of blonde Norwegian chicks there. I was going crazy, taking pictures of them in their bikini. What can I say? I'm just like,
we can't see them here.
Yeah, I left those pictures out. Yeah. Anyway, so this is like a heartfelt testimony from over 6 years ago when I was still going at it, telling people we are in the process of messianic revelation. There are 1,001 signs. You can't deny them. So this thing has been drawn out for many, many years. I mean, even from 2000, like I'd say, even from the 9/11 incident, my Rebbitzin Jungreis in New York, in Manhattan, in front of a huge audience in the temple, in the synagogue, She told them, "Look, this is a major sign of the messianic process of messianic revelation." And that was in 2001. She tried to calm people's nerves and tell them, "Look, you shouldn't be afraid. This is part of what was anticipated," and that was 20 years ago. All right, and I recall her saying this, and she's passed. God bless her memory. But the thing is, this is not just something that has popped up from yesterday to today. This is not something recent. This has been a very long anticipated event, and it's for hundreds of years and for thousands of years. But now we are in the final sort of a fat lady singing moment, curtains, we are in the last stage. We are at the last stop. You can read a little bit. I mean, if you want me to read what I wrote there.
Go on. The song it's just a song, is it?
Yeah, it's a song. It's a contemporary pop musician here in Israel, but he's talking about God. He's singing about God. Enod milvado. This is an expression in Hebrew. There is no one other than God. There you cannot exist without enod milvado. You can't live, you can't exist without God. Basically, it's a supplication in modern song. It's a nice heartfelt song in Hebrew. But so what I wrote here is that I've returned to live in Israel after many years of living in the United States. I'm committed to living in Israel. I believe strongly that we are on the verge of a major shift in history. This is from over 6 years ago. Honestly, I believe deeply in the Hebrew prophets, and I've shared my beliefs with my friends and family. I've been following the lessons and messages of Rabbi Nir ben Artzi for many years. I felt we were drawing closer to the finale of Jewish history, even from before my friends introduced me to his teachings and to his messages, because I came back here in 2005. And after the collapse of the Twin Towers and the 9/11 event, that really shook me. And also what my Rebbitzin said, of blessed memory, that also shook me. I highly regard Rabbi Ben Artzi as a very special person with a very special calling and a mission for the Jewish people. And I'll say it openly, I believe he's the Mashiach, he's the Messiah. I would not say he has been given a gift. I would not say he has been given a gift. He has been given a tremendous responsibility. The man receives messages and visions from the Holy Spirit and from God directly. I mean, that's what the Mashiach is. He's a conduit. He's a transmitter. It is just too much to deny. The man has visions of what is to come, and he can see each individual's life and problems before they even speak to him. You just have to show up. He sees you, and he knows everything about you. You don't even. He baffles people. I mean, it's not like I wouldn't say like superpowers or what have you, or a telepath or extrasensory perception. It's much more than that. All right. And what else did I write? My message to this world is that your time is up. A new world is about to emerge. Those that refuse to see what is transpiring are bound to get hurt. I feel my calling is to inform people and to explain to them why we are truly witnessing prophecy take place before our very eyes. This is from over 6 years ago. I wrote this. People have a really hard time believing, especially if they grew up with no faith and no religion. It is difficult to understand the esoteric nature of the prophets. It is written that by the time of the end, meaning the end of wonders, as it is written in the book of Daniel, biblical prophecies regarding end times would become much more clearer and easier to understand, because we would see events that correspond to the prophets taking place before our very eyes. It has been happening for several years now, and now in our time, it's far more intense. Nobody can deny that we're on the verge of a major calamity as far as security, economics, health. All this stuff is conjoining, and it's coalescing. It's a building, and it has been happening for several years now, and there are signs in the heavens and on the earth. Some are against believing and some are for. I'm for believing. I'm more convinced at this point than ever before. Something big is on the way. And I wrote this in 2016. When was it? October. What is it? October 14th of 2016. That's when I posted that. My message to the Jews of Israel is that if you are still not convinced that prophecy is taking place before your very eyes, then I truly feel sorry for you. If you were raised if you were raised through your life believing that the Torah is one big joke or one big myth, then I truly feel sorry for you. There are these type of dismissive Jews here that I mentioned, and they're not hard to identify. If you are beginning to sense that there is a divine truth in the Torah and the words of the prophets, then you are not alone. People are becoming stronger in their faith. They are being compelled. This is what God has offered them. He's very merciful. I mean, He's given them the velvet glove treatment. Not being too harsh on them, but soon it's going to be the iron fist instead of the velvet glove. Okay, if because time is running out, time is about up. Israel's government, when the coalition fails, see that as a blatant, blaring sign that glaring sign that messianic revelation is about to take place, and it has everything to do with all of the events coalescing now. Okay, if you are beginning to sense that there is divine, okay, what did I write there? If you feel uneasy and embarrassed by revealing that you have a Jewish soul and that you are a believer because your friends and family might think you are losing your mind, then I could tell you it is that they are wrong, and I could tell you that they are wrong and that you are right. Realize that the exile in Europe managed to not only rape the bodies of the Jews, it raped their minds and souls, and the Jews more than their bodies, okay, because it created a lot of faithlessness or resentment or an excuse to say God doesn't exist and an excuse to reject God. But this was happening prior to the Holocaust, during the time of the Enlightenment and the time of the philosophers that were trying to create more of a secular society in Europe and include the Jews in it. And so the Jews were beginning to also fall off the straight and narrow path of faith and go towards the path of secular humanism and European philosophy, and like Spinoza and Mendelssohn and these characters. We all know who they are. And Herzl was also part of that milieu of European Jews. Okay, and it ended up in a terrible, horrific, fate. And they get really upset at the suggestion that it also came down to God's judgment, because the Jews were letting themselves go in Europe, and they were assimilating, they were intermarrying. There's a book out about a lot of the German troops, the SS troops, a lot of, even, they were Mischlings, okay? And this is something that the neo-Nazis and the Nazis of today frown upon, but they know it's true. Even the harshest, most murderous and bloodthirsty SS troops had Jewish blood going back a few generations. They were Mischlings, okay, because the intermarriage and the assimilation was so severe. And you go to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial, the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem, and you go through the books and the names. You know how many Adolfs are there? You know how many German names are there? It's like you can't distinguish whether they're Jews or Germans when you find the German names or whatever names, the Hungarian names, but especially the German names. And I told you I went to Normandy, and I went to the Omaha Beach museum there, and I went to the cemetery, the military, the cemetery where you have all the marble crosses and the marble stars of David. Right along the cliffs there, where you find where they filmed Saving Private Ryan, and so I walked through the graves and the tombstones, and I went to a lot of the Jewish tombstones, and I came upon a name of an officer, a second lieutenant, that went by the name of Adolf Meyer. Adolf. All right, now I can't blame his family. I can't blame them for naming him Adolf and not knowing that Adolf Hitler was going to be the cause and the reason why this poor man ended up fighting and dying on the beaches of Normandy and having to sacrifice his life. But the shame of it and the rub and the insult of it is that he's a Jew and he's named Adolf. I mean, any Jew in his right mind would see understand the irony, would understand the bitter irony of this American Jew of German extraction, fought in the U.S. Army as a second lieutenant, and he was mowed down, gunned down on the beaches of Normandy, sacrificing his life. But on his tombstone, he'll be remembered as Adolf, and people will always make that connection. All right, so the assimilation was intense in Europe. Okay, and let's say God was not very much in favor of that. Even my Rebbitzin, who her entire family was massacred. She's Hungarian. She was Hungarian. And even in her sermons, she said this, that it was because of assimilation. It was because the Jews were losing themselves in Europe, and whether it was secular society or whether they were, converting to Christianity dishonestly, like Karl Marx's family dishonestly converted to Christianity without being practicing Christians or Catholics. They kept, they just did it formally so that they can advance themselves in German society. That's what a lot of Jews in Germany and Austria did. All right, so God frowned upon that as well. That's a big no-no. All right, so I'll keep on reading, and that's been happening in America for as long as the Jews have been there. It's only gotten worse. It's gotten worse and worse, and there's a limit. God has His limit. All right. So realize and look at me. I mean, and I was a yeshiva student, and I was I didn't take any non-Jewish girls while I was in high school. I was kind of being conservative, but I got to college, and it's an art school. It's liberal, and I'm using this word liberal again, and I can't complain. She was pretty nice. She was good looking. She was cute. And she was a smart girl, and I liked her a lot. I loved her. But I was wrong. I mean, unless I would have committed to having her convert to Judaism, which was on my mind. But still, I mean, the impulse, the sort of like the temptation and the willingness is there in the diaspora far more than it is in Israel. All right, so believe it or not, even a person like me that frowns upon assimilation and intermarriage, I could have ended up easily, taking a non-Jewish woman, because I hate to be critical, but we all know that Jewish women are very difficult, especially in America, where they are very, very overbearing, over-demanding, and a lot of Jewish men are put off in a sort of like. And not so much attracted to Jewish women. You find it in New York, where Jewish men take Oriental women, they like Japanese women, they like Chinese women, and vice versa. The Jewish women like to take, Oriental men. I've seen this. I saw this at my workplace, where I worked in a photo agency, and it's like I'm not going to be self-righteous. I fell into that kind of mode of behavior as well. It was like it turned off by the Jewish women in New York. I went out with them, but honestly, no, I was like, I was turned off by them. But so what I'm expressing now is basically that it's a trap, and God no longer wants the Jews in the exile. He doesn't want them assimilating anymore. He doesn't want them intermarrying anymore. And this is why we are being put through this process. It's just an aspect. It's one element of the whole entire process, but it's a huge part of it. God is not going to allow the Jews to lose themselves amongst the nations by way of intermarriage and assimilation. It will end. It's ending now. All right. And I speak as a guilty participant in assimilation. Okay, I took part in it. So let's see, what else did I write here? For what else did I write here? I was being dramatic and melodramatic in what I was writing here. It's from 6 years ago. It still holds true. Okay, so people have reached the lowest levels of depravity and violence, animal-like behavior. Nations are warring against nations. Nations are entangled within themselves, their leaders and their people. There is much anxiety in the world, even among those that are not fully aware of the specifics, the details of what is happening. True believers amongst the Jews, amongst the Jewish people, are in a state of preparation and anticipation. So God, has allowed a long time for people to make peace with what's happening and come to terms and accept it and get into the stream of faith and belief for your own benefit, in order to vindicate yourselves, exonerate yourselves, and be on the right side when the Mashiach comes and is revealed, not when he's revealed. Everybody wants to know when will the Mashiach be known to the world, out in public, so everyone can see him. He's working, he's functioning. God is working through him, speaking through him, and it's a very serious thing. I was just listening to my rabbi tonight, and he was saying things will be very serious. The way the way he will function, it will be very cut and dry and very heavy, very serious. No joking around. There are those who still doubt that and then there are those who hope it won't happen. Okay, people want to maintain their status quo. Some people enjoy this kind of world where it's depraved, sick, and twisted, and unjust, and full of lies. Olam HaSheker, the world of lies. They know it will mean that the world will change, and they don't want this change to come about. Sadly, there are also Jews among them, okay, that are working against this. They think they can stop this or work against this. They are kidding themselves. They are fooling themselves. This process is only moving forward. God is not taking any of this back. He's not stopping it. He's not pausing it. It's only moving forward. It's only progressing forward. It is very sad that when we have finally reached such a critical point in history, that so many Jews are blind and refuse to believe. And this is way, way before I met you, Claire. So this is what I've been writing and critiquing. Okay, the material world has a choking grip on them. All right, this includes even religious Jews of all different types. God help those Jews. God help them. They are failing. They are failing miserably in this time that they are obligated to believe and act based on their faith and on their beliefs, which means get yourselves out of the diaspora and get over to Israel at all costs and as quickly as possible. The Jews are obligated to believe and to act on this based on their beliefs in this critical time in history, regardless of their lack of faith or lack of action. They will never defeat God's will, the will of Hashem. God no longer wants the Jews to live in the diaspora. He is forcing them to leave and return to Israel. Anti-Semitism around the world has become more extreme. The Jews are being blamed for everything, as per usual, as is the case. I wrote this 6 years ago, and I was saying this even from before that. It's only going to intensify. It's God's will that this should happen. It should intensify in order to drive the Jews to come back here. Instead of having a Holocaust, I told you it's not going to be a second Holocaust. It's just going to be that he's going to take away their businesses. He's going to take away their money, their savings, their pride, their arrogance, their material values are going to evaporate, because we will have a global financial collapse. That's why I harp on it. That's why I obsess over it, because it's also for the benefit of the Jews living also for the benefit of the Jews in Israel, that they should, realize that this is part of the messianic process of messianic revelation. It's written in the book of Zechariah that the Messiah would arrive on the back of a white donkey. It's all metaphor. He basically symbolizing, or it's now the fact that God and the Messiah will subdue the material world, and will purify the material world, make it more spiritual. That's the reason for a white donkey, is like to cleanse, to clean, and the donkey is like a representation of the world of asinine people that function only based on materials and materialistic values. But also, it's that the donkey takes very slow steps. He doesn't. He's not. What's the word for a horse when he runs and he's not galloping. He's walking very slowly. So it's the process of getting to the target, to the objective, to the location. It's step by step, like the steps of a donkey or a turtle, moving very slowly. All right, so the metaphor found in Zechariah has depth, but the Christians took that and molested that, and it's Jesus riding on the back of a donkey entering Jerusalem during the time of the Romans, and it's all horse shit. All right, and we don't appreciate it. Why do you insist on raping, molesting, and perverting the meaning of our prophets? Why? All right, so I just gave you the proper interpretation of what that means. Anyway, so what else did I write here? Okay, here it is. Okay. God is forcing them to leave. Anti-Semitism around the world is becoming extreme. The Jews are being blamed, targeted. They think there's something still worth fighting for in the exile. They want to hold on to their homes and their possessions, their businesses, despite realizing that it is not just anti-Semitism, but intermarriage and assimilation that is destroying their future in the diaspora. They insist on holding on to that, to their routines and their norms there, and God is fighting them. It's a struggle between them and God. All right, they won't win. God is having none of it. It is going to end soon. Okay, I wrote this 6 years ago, and I was thinking and believing it would end back then. But even my rabbi said, he said it in tonight's lecture. He said, sort of in a frustrated way, the Messiah should have been revealed a long time ago already. This is only for your benefit. God is merciful with you. God is stretching this thing out, so as many people as possible can merit the benefits of the messianic revelation, can be vindicated, can be exonerated just by believing. Okay, it sounds like crazy Christian talk, but in this case, it's not that your sins are expunged if you believe in Jesus, and that's what the tool that the tools they employ. In this case, it's that turn away from wickedness, don't do evil, but if you want to be included in the first cycle of messianic revelation, where you will actually benefit from this process, when everybody else will be on the floor crawling in pain, you won't be. It requires you to be in full faith and in full sort of anticipation and belief, with no matter how much you might get laughed at or ridiculed. If you are in the stream of faith that this is the time and the Messiah should be revealed now in this time we are living in, you will have that buys your ticket in to what's called the first cycle of redemption, which means you won't be harmed. Everybody's going to get harmed in one way or another by this thing. All right, it's going to be calamitous. It's going to be how can it not be? I mean, a global financial collapse. My rabbi said, falling. Things will fall apart. And there's no way that people won't be traumatized or affected by it, spiritually, psychologically. Especially if they're not faithful, if they're not believers, it will sideswipe them. It will literally be like a bat getting slammed in the back of your head with a bat being swung right into the back of your head without you seeing it coming, and then you get dazed, you get traumatized, and even if you're somewhere in the back of your mind, well, you heard these warnings and people were telling you this is a potential of what's happening, it will still catch you by surprise, because a lot of people are so willfully ignorant and oblivious and in a state of denial that when it happens, they'll say, well, they like to dismiss things, but when it comes, it will hit them very hard, like a bat to the back of the head, or like an anvil falling on their head, like some sort of Warner Brothers cartoons, like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. But so anyway, what else did I write here? Jews are in the crosshairs. They are being. They were just as they were before the rise of Hitler and the beginning of the Holocaust. I'm saying here that the banking system will start collapsing more in Europe, and that's just logical, and it's the case. Italy is having problems with their bonds. It can become more of a contagion for the rest of Europe. It's been on and off with the banking system in Europe, but it will be Europe will be the catalyst for the Western world in their financial systems, their banking systems. Will start infecting the rest of the West in America. You know, it will be contagion, but it won't happen in America. It will happen first in Europe. Europe is the weak point. All right, their banking system is far more vulnerable and weak, and that's just been the case, and people know that. What else did I write here? It's so sad to see that money blinds fools. Even until death, they prefer their money, even in the face of threats of death and dying. So it is suitable that money will be the final sort of a sort of the money will be the deciding factor or the impetus that will bring the Jews of the diaspora back to Israel, because they will lose all of their money and they will lose all of their excuses for staying there. My rabbi said it will become very easy for them to pick up and leave, and for them, knowing who they are and knowing what their value systems are, that only means that they will lose all their possessions and their money. That will be the ultimate persuader. That will be the ultimate decision maker. That will make it easy for them to just pick up and leave everything. It's hard for them to accept these things. It sounds far-fetched. It sounds like fear-mongering. It sounds like fear porn. But you know what? God help them. I've put myself out in this. I wrote this 6 years ago. I went and did radio shows with Dalia Razi. I went and did a studio TV program about the Big Short and the banking system, and about how the banks don't want people to pull cash out of the banks, and they don't want people using bills. They want to go cashless. They want to go all digital. That was even well back, way back then. Zero Hedge they were writing these articles. Nothing's changed. It's only it become more obvious that this is what's happening. All right. So what else did I write here? Okay, money. All of the money will burn. The banks will collapse. There is no way out of this. Governments have no solutions aside from trying to start wars. Central banks have no way to cover this up anymore. People think this can go on forever. The central banking system can continue printing money and adding credit to the system forever. That's what they think. The answer is no, that's not going to happen. That's a big no. There is a limit. There is an ending point. There is parameters and limitations to how long this can last before we get what's called a big reset and build back better and all the other crap that's being pulled on us today. And we know what we're talking about, some of the taboo things we can't say here. We are reaching a turning point, a point of inflection. The biggest bank now I was under the assumption that would happen in Germany with Deutsche Bank, but they saved that bank. That's their biggest commercial bank. That's like their trophy bank in Germany. So even if it's a sclerotic, dying zombie bank, they still saved it. The biggest bank in Germany, Deutsche Bank, is close to default. It was in the single digits. Their market share was like nothing, was falling, and their stock price was like in the single digits. They were on the verge of collapsing, and they were saved at the last minute. And also Commerce Bank, the Germans found a way to salvage their commercial banking system. When this bank falls, it will take the rest of the world with it. It will affect this was the anticipation back then. It will affect the entire world with contagion. There are hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of derivatives and debts that need to be written off. On top of all of this, we can expect the world to be shaken by severe earthquakes and all the other geological events that are supposed to happen. There have been many sightings of moons, planets, and I'm talking about the secondary sun. And we showed footage, if I recall, of the multicolored sparking orb. All right, that's written about in the Zohar, and it's also written that there would be a solar system intersecting our solar system, seven stars, 7 planets. It's also found in the Christian reinterpretation of the eschatology of the end times in the Messianic Revelation. Okay, so what else did I write here? Okay, and I went into Caesar's Messiah as well as a response to the Christians. I told the Jews of the diaspora, you were in terrible danger. You were risking your lives for staying over there. God's face has shifted from grace to judgment. And see how I was even itching for it back then, like what John said. It's like I'm jonesing for it. Like he made these, gestures. Like I'm taking a needle and I'm shooting it straight into my jugular or straight into my veins. Oh, it's the end of the world. Oh, that feels good. All right, but it's insane to say this, but it's like we need to go through this. It's the only way out of this. I mean, for all your efforts, and you're doing a great job, and you mean well, but your critique is not going to force a real change unless people are shocked and traumatized into changing themselves. All right. Sadly, that's what it requires. That's what it takes. It takes shock and trauma, whatever, God's judgment. Okay. Judgment is now more powerful than God's grace and mercy. The only safe place for the Jews to be is in Israel. It's being deliberately done by the hand of God. God has given the Jews of the world enough time and enough warnings to understand what He wants of them. This, as I must repeat, I wrote this 6 years ago. Now it's time for the hammer to fall. It is the Jews' fault for being in denial, for fighting the will of God. I recommended my rabbi that they listen to his speech and lectures and lessons. And I have a picture here where I'm in Thailand. You see this? You saw this scroll down. I'm in Thailand it was one of the nature parks there. It was on the Malaysian border over there. Ko Lipe. You familiar with this place, Ko Lipe? It's a national park.
You mean the beach pictures you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, if you scroll down on the site, you'll find here. Let me. I'll share my screen with you. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Here, 1 second. I'll share my screen. Share screen. You see it? Oh, wait a minute. Select entire screen. Allow. All right, I'm sharing the screen. You see that picture with the Thai boats on the beach there?
Oh, that. Yes.
Yeah. That's Ko Lipe. That's close to Malaysia there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very nice.
Very nice place, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I had a great time there. How am I going to stop sharing screen? Stop. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so I mean, there's much more I had to say there. It's basically the same message. I was talking about Caesar's Messiah. I was putting up the video footage of Atwill going on about his thesis and also about other things, about the Erev Rav and about the reincarnation and the transmigration of souls, having to deal with malicious, evil, dark souls that come.
That'd be quite interesting for you to talk about, maybe in just as a topic.
Sure, but the Jewish people that are honest with themselves realize that what I said is true. All right, there are people that give us really bad names, that do horrible things, and because they're born Jewish, they have Jewish names and Jewish identities. We end up catching flack and catching a lot of the hatred. It's sort of like what's the expression? When you have like a punishment, sort of a collective punishment, all right. So, or when we get pigeonholed. But at this point, I'm not fighting it. I used to be more aggressive in getting upset about the fact that Jews get stereotyped, pigeonholed, and collectively punished for the behavior and for the actions of certain Jews that are, stick out like sore thumbs, that are conspicuous, that give us really bad names, like Mr. Yuval Noah Harari or Epstein. Remind me, what's Epstein's first name?
Jeffrey.
Oh, Jeffrey Epstein. And then what's the name of that fat fuck from Hollywood? Weinstein. All right.
Harvey. I think.
Harvey Weinstein. You see, they're so forgettable. I just want to erase them from my memory. And they're just recent examples. There's no lack of really bad Jews that do horrible things, that take a lot of license to do tremendously horrific and evil things. And then we catch a heat for this, And this is what happened in Europe, prior to the Holocaust. And it's happening again. All right. And it's God's will that the Jews no longer assimilate. And you could see that I'm in that picture, that I was really in love with that girl, and I still remember her. But it's just, it's not what God wants. It's just not what God wants anymore. All right. So that they should just take this to heart. It ended up in a Holocaust, in the horrors beyond imagination. Do not submit to all of these temptations. Just as my rabbi said, it's like you're doing avodah zarah. You are working, other gods. You are worshiping other gods. You are betraying God. There is a penalty. There is a price to pay. And if you don't stop this happening, if you don't try to discipline other Jews in your communities or where you live, you will end up having to pay for their affronts, for their lack, of faith, for their sins, for their their lack of discipline. Everybody, I mean, when
You used to
God,
excommunicate each other, didn't you?
say what?
You used to excommunicate each other. It's called herem.
Yeah, cherem. Yeah, it was common. They did that to Spinoza. To
Yes,
yeah,
that was who I was thinking of. Did you
yeah.
think that was right?
With Spinoza back then, probably, because as good of a philosopher as he was, and I read a lot of his work when I took philosophy courses. He started a movement which basically ended up with the Jews being mass murdered and genocided for losing their discipline, for letting things get too out of hand as far as intermarriage and assimilation. It is very severe. I mean, this is where really God draws the line. He does not want the Jews to lose themselves amongst the nations. This is where the repercussions are catastrophic, and they're global. All right. And if the Jews indulge in this way too long, and for too long and too much, it ends up bad. It ends up being horrific and bad for the entire world, for all the nations. All right. This is what the Gentiles should understand. For your own benefit, do not intermarry with the Jews. Do not allow them to assimilate. That's why things are getting really, surreal in America and even in Europe. Okay. The answer that God gave to the world and to the Jews for their assimilation into European culture was Nazism and the Holocaust. I'm sorry to say that in such a blunt way, but even religious Jews that are Ashkenazic and European, like my Rebbitzin Jungreis, said this in front of crowds of thousands of people in the temple, in the synagogues. I can't get away with it as easily because I'm Middle Eastern, I'm dark-skinned, I'm Iraqi, Indian. It's how dare you, and they get all, offended. But their own, we're all Jews. We're all, I can't talk about them as being others, all right? But the Ashkenazic, we're all part of the same family as Jews. But they being Ashkenazic, they can cope with hearing it from other Ashkenazic respected religious leaders telling them, look, it's just it's a repeating cycle throughout history. When and if the Jews lose themselves and in idolatry, in assimilation, and in lasciviousness, in fornication, and in doing all these things against God in God's face, and in the eyes of God, right in front of Him, shamelessly, just employing pride and arrogance, thinking nothing will happen to you, and then all of a sudden, after enough of it builds, and God loses His patience, and He's slow to anger. But when He finally does have to act, then you're all surprised and you're caught off guard. How dare you? And this is coming from Ashkenazic rabbinic leaders or spiritual leaders.
You're Sephardic, aren't you?
Mizrahi. Sephardic
Yeah, oh,
means of
Mizrahi, of course, sorry.
Spanish, Spanish Jews of North Africa and Spain. They're called Sephardic. We're similar as being dark-skinned Jews, and I'm more like Oriental, Middle Eastern, Eastern, which is Mizrahi. Mizrahi literally means Eastern or Oriental. And so hearing it coming from me might tick them off. It might offend them. Maybe less nowadays, but they know better than to be offended and accuse me of like, oh, that sounds anti-Semitic. No, you're not going to get away with that anymore. All right, you'll have to take responsibility. All right, this is a repeating cycle. The Jews living abroad in America and in Europe, and even here in Israel, but it's less here in Israel. I mean, they're tempted to do these things here in Israel, but they're they don't do it as much. But now they travel all over the world, so even Israelis are exposed to this, and they're behaving. And we have no lack of homosexuals here, so that's going to be very harsh for them. I mean, when we have messianic revelation, there's not going to be any more homosexuality in Israel. It's just going to stop. There's not going to be any more sexual deviance. There's not going to be any of this anymore. And so the judgment will be intense and severe, and it's going to be very sad. Even my rabbi said it. He said even couples, if you have one of the partners, if it's a man that's in a state of faith and belief that we are now in the process of messianic revelation, and his wife happens to not be on the same page or in the same kind of mode, they won't stay together. I mean, that's how bad it's going to be. That's how sad it's going to be, and vice versa. If the woman is for and the man is against, they're going to be, they're not going to be together once we have messianic revelation, because one of the partners will merit messianic revelation, the other won't. So they'll have to go through a painful process of being humiliated, being humbled, having to suffer. Meaning, it's best that you be on the path of faith and belief and anticipation. It's for your own benefit. Work on your what's called midot, on your character, bad character traits, what your weak points. Try to improve them. If you're, a licentious type of person, try to stop doing that. Don't fornicate as much. Don't fornicate at all. Try to avoid that. If you're a liar, if you're a thief, if you're a crook, if you're a deceiver, stop. Just fix your bad character traits. It's called tikkun midot. That's what's being recommended now, because we are facing the moment of truth. So people really need to work hard on this if they don't want to be hit hard and hammered by this event when it arrives. It's best to try to fix your bad habits, bad traits, and be in a state of belief and anticipation. It'll work in your benefit. This is the message that's being transmitted. I'm repeating the message, and it's for the sake of any Jew out there that's listening. All right. There's much more to be said, but how much more? How much more can I say? How can I repeat this message in more eloquent ways? I don't know. It's just say again. Say what? Say
tell stories.
I'll tell stories. Okay. Well, basically, again, it's you can take it back to the Babylonian exile. All right. That's one of the more sort of like memorable events in Jewish history. And there's verification of this having happened by way of the Assyrians having documented it. You find it in Berlin, their Asian museum, Asiatisches, whatever. They where they have a reconstruction of the tower of the walls of Babylon, of Pergamon, and they also have relics from the Assyrians. Actually, I saw this with my German girlfriend here. I went to her. I went to the museum of a museum. What's the name of the Met? The Metropolitan on the east side near Central Park, and there were exhibits there that came from the Berlin Museum of Asian History, of Near Eastern History. And the relics were from the Assyrians. There were like in Also, I think it was in whether I think it was in bronze, but they were motifs of like the Jews being dragged into in chains to Babylon. It wasn't just it was the Babylonians, meaning the Assyrians took the 10 tribes. So there have been so many incidents in the past where when the Jews have gone astray, they fall into exile, they fall victims and captives of their enemies, and they end up being put into a state of servitude and slavery or subjugation, and they go through difficulties and trials. So this is nothing new. I mean, the Babylonian exile lasted for 70 years, and it was because of what? Because again, idolatry, incest, bloodletting, murder, doing it all in the face of God, worshiping the Canaanite gods, Asherah and Baal. And all of this is known to the Christians as well. This is stuff that they also study intensely about where the Jews went astray and fell. But it's for the benefit, this is recorded in our history for our benefit, to learn from it and not to repeat what was done in the past, to understand what God's terms are for us. All right, so this is where we stand again. The Jews have pushed God's patience to the limit. All right, they behave in a sort of like an obstinate and sort of like self-righteous, and when you ignore something, that they're dismissive. Just like when I went to have my Thai soup, and the couple sitting next to me, immediately I sensed their a sort of like distaste for my mentioning the final redemption and the arrival of the Messiah, and having faith in this process, having faith in God, being a believing Jew. Their obstinance, their is sort of the dismissive attitudes or their arrogance, whether they behave, they're called Yefeh Nefesh. Yefeh Nefesh, these people, they like to behave as though they're cultured and civilized and generous and humane, but just talk to them about God and you'll get dirty looks from them. All right, we know these characters, we know what they're about, and so in one way or another, we have a sort of like a reincarnation of sorts of these types of personalities and characters that have come from the past. They just morph into what they are today. Whereas, like, let's say in the time of Jeremiah, in the time of the destruction of the first temple, the Babylonian exile, they were far more arrogant and disrespectful in the face of God, in the face of the temple, in front of their eyes in God's presence, and they were fornicating in the temple courtyard and doing orgies and the worst things you can in the face of God. And the women were taking part in it as well, and believing in Tammuz, the Babylonian god, and having all sorts of strange beliefs that they angered the Babylonian gods. And it's just like when the temple is standing, that they're doing this stuff. And it was horrendous. It was to us nowadays it seems unimaginable, the level of depravity in the face of God, in the eyes of God, in the presence of God. It led to devastation, utter, total destruction and devastation. All right, so we have this kind of it permeated now in our time. We have this kind of a incarnation of it now in its own unique modern form, and there will have to be atonement for it. A price will have to be paid. All right, so God does not want to holocaust the Jews again. It's very insulting to say this. This is what my rabbi said. Instead, he will impoverish them. He will take away their businesses, their homes, their money, their arrogance, their pride. He will break them and humiliate them. Why? Because they are incapable of doing it, to themselves in a dignified way, in an honorable way, by just surrendering all of that, selling it while they can, and returning to Israel and living a humble life here, without looking. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Europe and in America now, driving around in a fancy, luxurious car, does it have the same kind of a sort of impression? Does it leave the kind of impression it used to leave on people? that it once did in the past. I'm kind of like and I used to be a big whore for like fancy luxury cars and sports cars, and I used to enjoy putting on the airs and showing off. It's now I think of it and I get sick to my stomach. It's just like those are nice memories, but again, it's this materialism. These materialistic values. They're no longer as appealing as they used to be. And also London is a big fat rich city with luxury cars on every corner, and in New York as well. But it's like you get my drift, Claire. It's like not no longer desirable. It's not. I don't want to show off. I don't feel the need for it. I don't want to partake in this kind of culture anymore. There's no drive to want to really. There's no there's no like there's no impulse. It's like, no, I don't want the fancy Ferrari. I'm not tempted by it. I'm not looking for that kind of like the fancy homes and the showing off. And it's just like, it's no longer appealing. The world is being humbled. Okay. So the Jews need to buy a clue. Otherwise they'll have to pay through the nose. God doesn't want to kill them, doesn't want to have them be murdered by the hands of the Gentiles for their transgressions. But he will bring them back, because this is the process of messianic revelation and the complete and final redemption. Some of them that are that can't be redeemed at all, some of them will go. Some of them will be put to death, but it won't be as bad as what happened in the Holocaust. Okay, God had his weights and measures and calculations, and to question him is really stupid. Some Jews do this because it gives them license to do whatever they want and to reject the laws and the commandments, and live according to their own value system, and that's coming to an end as well. We are facing a sort of like an absolutist theocracy that will be installed and implemented by the hand of God and his deliverer, the Messiah, the Mashiach, the Savior. Okay, it will be cut and dry, very serious. That I say with full confidence, and it's not just some wishful thinking or fantasizing or what have you. It's and as far as me and my flaws and my weaknesses, I'm divorced. Obviously I would like to have a wife and have a regular sex life. It's natural. It's what every human being desires if they're straight, and that's going to be resolved and that's what I've been hearing, and that's what I believe from my rabbi. He said that once there's messianic revelation, that's it. There won't be divorce. People will be satisfied with their partners, and the bachelors and bachelorettes. That's they'll find their second half. And things will be far more, satisfying, and there will be happiness, for the ones that will submit, not for the ones that are obstinate and arrogant and stiff-necked. So I'm putting myself in a state of preparation. Okay, I know that I'll have to suffer for whatever I've done. I'll pay. I've had to pay. All right, I'm still paying. But I'm in a state of faith, and I'm in a state of belief. And when it happens, I believe that I'll be, I'll be compensated. I'll have a good life. I'll find the right person. I'll be with the right person. I'll have more children. This is my faith, and this is my anticipation. This is my hope. This is what I believe. This is what my rabbi has been saying. I believe he is the Mashiach. That's what's expected. I'm expecting good things. Okay, so I'm not going to beat my head. I'm not going to beat myself over the head over the things that I've done wrong. And the things that didn't go my way. I mean, I've lived a very satisfying life and fulfilling life. I can't complain. I've had a lot of exciting things happen. I haven't lived a boring life, but I would prefer to have a second half. What's called the proper partner, whatever, wife. A lot of men and women in Israel are very frustrated. It's around the world as well, and this is also part of the process. We must be put through this put through this what's the word I'm looking for? A like a purification process. The gauntlet. We must walk the gauntlet. We must be put through this painful experience, because the Messiah doesn't arrive on a clear sunny day for no reason. All right, he's called a savior for a reason. He's called the deliverer for a reason. All right. It's just like the children of Israel. Children of Israel suffering in Egypt under the pharaohs and slavery. We are living a contemporary, modern version of that today, and so the Jews are crying out. God is hearing their moaning and groaning from their heart. People aren't happy. All right, this decay, this social degeneration, this inability to really force change. We are grumbling, we're moaning, we're complaining. That's what he wants. He wants us to ask. He wants us to cry out and say, okay, where it's no longer. It sounds desperate. It sounds like but that's what he wants. We can try to analyze things and propose solutions, and it's not for nothing. It's not a waste of time. But at the end of the day, what God really requires of us, the Jewish people, is that we cry out for the Savior, for Mashiach. Has to come from the heart. He's putting pressure on us for a reason. So it's submitting. You have to submit to His will and say, yes, we understand. We understand what you want from us. We believe this is the time. We believe that we are in the process of messianic revelation. That's our ticket in. That's the key that opens the door. Believe. All right. It doesn't mean that, like the Christians, believe in Jesus and go around doing what the hell you want. Continue sinning, and Jesus will save you, and salvation and all this nonsense that they have. The fascist Roman easy out, the workers' paradise in heaven. The afterlife. That nonsense that's been propagated for centuries. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that the Jewish people be in a state of anticipation, a state of faith. And that's their ticket into the redemption, and to being satisfied by this process whereby the Mashiach will be revealed to the world. All right. My rabbi said, it will be like 50-50. Some Jews will be very happy when the day arrives, and some will be miserable, crawling on the floor like ants in agony on their knees. All right, so you can just imagine what that means. And so, what else can I say there, Claire? This is a time of intensity. This is a time of at least it's real, it's passionate, it's not boring, it's not mundane. We've had enough of that. Now we've got fireworks, so that's a positive thing, I think, in my estimation, that we are going through this very intense experience, and hopefully. It's all in God's hands, the scales of judgment, and He will. What's the expression? He will sort it out. All right. I'm not assuming to be powerful enough to judge and sort things out. That's God's job. That's the work of the Creator to do, and so that's where I'm going to probably just have to end it on that point. And God willing. May we merit the arrival of the Messiah in mercy for those that are, in full faith and anticipation. And I only wish that far more Jews that I know in Israel would be more serious and would be in a state of faith. It would be easier on me knowing that I tried to wake them up and I tried to help open their eyes to this. And for me, even personally, I took a liking to a certain girl at work, and I tried to kind of convince her and persuade her, and it didn't work. They're more on the pragmatic side, the disbelieving side, and so God have mercy on those people. They'll have to go through what they have to go through. Claire, I'm going to end it there, Claire. I kind of spilled my guts. I kind of opened myself completely. I wear my heart on my sleeve at this point. It's like I'll say everything that's on my mind. So, there you go. Uh, we'll end it there, Claire. Are you there, Claire? I went on and on. Wow, I was like giving a confession. Claire, are you there? Hello. Wow. Ow. I don't know. Maybe what I'm saying seems sort of like one-sided, and see, it can sound like unfair. But you have to take into account that this has been thousands of years in the making. All right, so when it arrives, and you know, people will have to deal with it, whether they like it or not, because we are reincarnations. We are, yeah, old souls. All the people that have to deal with this process now, they're not new souls. We're all very old souls. If we're in this period of time and we have to face this experience, count on it. We're not new souls. We're old souls, mostly all of us. Anyway, Claire, I'm gonna sign out. Sign
All
off.
right.
Have a good night. Have a good night.
All right. Good night,
Bye.
everyone. Good night.